Hey guys, welcome back to eFishin. Have you ever been out there on the lake in the wintertime fishing and made this observation where the fish are feeding on these really tiny shad? Well, if you have, we've got a little presentation today with these little finesse swim baits. These little finesse swim baits and why they're a great little winter finesse presentation that actually might save your day. Y'all hang on. We're going to talk about the baits. We're going to talk about the gear that I use, the swim bait head, where I fish it, and just a few other little things about it that I think you need to know, because you can take one of these little suckers and catch some fish this winter. Let's go. There we go. Nice fish there. There we go. Ha ha. There we go. Nice one, nice one, nice one. Look at that. Pretty nice fish. Got the old swim bait right there. There it is. How's that one? Woo-hoo. I don't know. Maybe on to something now. Here we go. Let's let you go. There we go. How's that? I like to use these suckers right here. They're Kitex. They're 3.5 swing impacts. I also like to use these right here. These Strike King Rage Swimmers in the 2.75. Now, it doesn't really matter. It just needs to be a small cylindrical swim bait. Kitex, Strike Kings, there's some others out there that work too. They just need to be the small ones, really not more than 3.5 inches, and they don't need to be real fat. They need to be real cylindrical. They're finesse, so keep that in mind. Keep that finesse part in there. The hook I use is this one right here. It's a 1/8 ounce head. It's a Do It walleye jig hook, and it's got a 1/0 Gamakatsu 111 jig hook in it. And I think that jig hook is probably the best swim bait jig hook out there. I've tried a lot of them. I've tried a lot of different heads and swim baits, and this one, it's got a nice little roll to it, and it just don't stay straight. It rolls and it hunts a little bit, and I think that's a good thing. The only thing is, this Gamakatsu 111 jig hook doesn't fit in the walleye jig mold. You have to do a little modification. So go check this video out if you want to see how to do that. And it's not a hard one to do, and it's a great little swim bait hook. So to take the swim bait hook and the Strike King Rage Tail 2.75, it's real easy. I don't know if you guys can see it on there, but it's got a little slot in the back of it. You want to make sure your hook comes out of that, because you want your swim bait to hang perfectly straight. You're just going to come in here in the head of it and come down. Now, here's the little tip for when you're rigging your swim bait. It's when your bait starts to come around the curve there on the shank of the hook, that's the time to punch your hook out like that right there, and then push it on up on your bait. And that way you'll get a nice, perfect rigged swim bait. And that's important, is that thing is rigged straight. Now, the gear I like to use, well, it's my trusty old 6.6 St. Croix medium action spinning rod with a 2500 dial with spinning reel on it with some 8-pound test line. It's real simple. It's a versatile thing, and we've talked about fishing some other things on it like the Shad Rap in the Shad Rap video for wintertime fishing. So if you don't have a good spinning rod and you're winter fishing, well, you might need to get one. Now, you could fish this thing with a braid, say a 10 or 15-pound test braid leader into a leader. So it's whatever you want to do. Just experiment around and see what works for you. So how you want to retrieve this bait is, it's really simple. There's just a couple of retrieves that you can try on this. And the first one is just a simple one. You're going to throw it out there and you're just going to start winding it back in. There's nothing special to it. The only thing is you just really want to go really slow because you want that bait to kind of just do a real slow pendulum back to the boat. Sometimes that's a really deadly retrieve. The other retrieve is, if let's say you're seeing fish and they're suspended down there in 10 to 12 foot of water. Well, guess what? This is real easy. You can throw that thing out there and count it down to 10. You want to keep that bait above the fish because they're going to feed up and eat that thing. So count that thing down there to 8 or 9 or something like that if you're seeing them in 10 foot, and just do that slow retrieve on it. And then every now and then just give that thing a little pause and let it fall a little bit. And sometimes when that thing's going along and it starts to fall, that's when they'll eat it. Now, the third retrieve is, it's painfully slow, but it works, is that you'll throw that thing out there and you'll just crawl it along on the bottom. Now, I don't do this a lot because I don't have a lot of patience for it, but if it's a real slow day, it's something, keep in the back of your mind that you might actually catch a few fish on if you just drag that thing back to the boat. So the places you want to fish this thing is a lot of the same places that we've talked about in some of our other wintertime fishing videos. It's just another technique to catch a couple of fish. And the main one is that you're going to want to look for a channel swing either up next to a point or a flat. But what you're looking for is places that those fish are suspended up and that they're feeding up on shad. So one of the places that I really like to fish this thing is if you've got a bluff, and I call them slides. And you'll be going down a bluff, and if you're looking, you'll notice that the rock changes. Well, it's where the rock has slid off. There's been a little rock slide there, and it's just formed, and it might be 20 yards, 10 yards, 20. It could be 50 yards in it, but it's just a little bit difference of the rock. And you can see those when you're going down bluff banks, and sometimes they're real small and sometimes they can be fairly large, but these places are really great places to fish this little swim bait on. Another place I like to fish them is the backs of little cuts. Now, these cuts really aren't real big, and sometimes if you're setting out, say on the points of this little cut, sometimes you can throw all the way in the back of them. So just think about that. They're 30, 40, 50 foot deep, and sometimes it's just a good little place for them fish. They'll sneak up and feed on. There's a fish. A little spotty, or a little largemouth. Well, there's another one for today on the old swim bait. There we go, there's a little spot. He sure is kind of pretty. Look at him. Woo! Looky there. Here we go.